ובכן אבוי אל המלך, אבוי אל המלך. אוי ובכן אבוי אל המלך, אבוי אל המלך. ובכן אבוי אל המלך, אבוי אל המלך. Ay, Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech, HaMelech. Ay, Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech. Ay, Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech, HaMelech. Ay, Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech. Uvechein Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech. Uvechein Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech. Ay, Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech, HaMelech. Ay, Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech. Ay, Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech, HaMelech. Ay, Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech, Ava el HaMelech. Thank you to whoever brought this. Okay. This is the middle of something I wanted to do for a long time. Every year in Purim. It's the middle of a mimer, but it's something specific that I wanted to get prepared for Purim, because as much as we prepare for Purim itself, on Purim Day there's so much going on that it's almost impossible to really be in the moment. It's crazy. And it happens so fast. Before you look at it, before you realize it's just, wow, Purim came, like, it was here. Lo yuman. So we're going to do a proper hachana for being as basically as a kli, as much of a vessel as we're ready for the kedusha of this Yom HaKodesh V'Hanora. That Baruch Hashem, I'm so proud of our chevra, because Purim by us has always been like really kadat v'chadin. Kadat v'chadin. I already say now the door by us opens, I think, what do we say, from 4 or 4:30. The doors are open to the whole keilah, and we go, as you remember, till
next day.
We're not going anywhere. We're just going. We're going until the Rebbeinu Shalom says, Batem el HaMelech, HaMelech po. HaMelech po. So this is a piece from Rav Kluger. Here, yes. Oh, you have it, Kiva. This is a beautiful way of us really doing a proper hachana. It's pretty simple Hebrew, some very basic yesodot here that we're going to learn inside. Hakoshi lichyot ba'avodah zo lemaisa bifrat bekriyat HaMegillah. The difficulty of actually, with all the hachanot that we have, to really be in the zone during Megillah reading. Hine nisbar. Shimei Purim hem hashoresh lechol yemot hashana legalot et hahastara. This is so deep. We're living in a state of concealment most of the time. And Purim is the shoresh, it's the root day of revealing the hastara, of revealing that concealment ceases, like just moves away for a little bit. And you have a little bit of clarity. It's the shoresh, it's the headquarters of basically what we're trying all year long to do, which is to remove concealment. Why is it so fuzzy? Why is it so cloudy? So on Purim, there's this one day of saying, it's not cloudy. It's not cloudy. Come inside. It's the shoresh of it's the root of it. Leha'ir et or Hashem betoch pashtus habriya. To shine, illuminate God's light through the simplicity of creation. Betoch kol ha'alamot ve'astarot, within all the concealment and all the hiddenness. Now this happens b'chol yom Purim bichlal. This happens throughout the day of Purim. U'b'sha'at kriyat ha'megillah bifrat. But specifically, while we are reading the Megillah. Mamash, while we are reading the Megillah. This moment of pashut hasarat ha-mechitzot, that the mechitzah just comes down, right? Masach barzel, the mechitzas come down, saying this really, during Kriyas Megillah, this notion takes place. Kedivrei Chazal, like the Gemara Megillah says, Hakoreh et ha-Megillah lemafreya lo yatsa. Moshe, were you here yesterday when Yeshua said that voice? What does it mean? What does it mean? What's the halacha Hakoreh et ha-Megillah lemafreya mean? Huh? Also, the opposite meaning it's that, but also it's the seder, the actual order itself is afuch al afuch, right? So Hakoreh et ha-Megillah lemafreya lo yatsa dehainu she'avoda, next page, lehair et ha'arat ha-Megillah lekol ve'echad ve'echad vehu b'shat ha-kriyah. There's something that happens for each person. Sorry, I don't have enough. I'm sorry, Mechila. I thought I made enough. Okay. Lechol echad ve'echad b'shat ha-kriyah. Now look at this. Now he says, usually when light is so available, the other side is going to be working extra hard to make sure that you have no access to it. It's always like this. With the things that matters most, think about it. How many of you have had the worst thoughts during Yom Kippur? Why is that? Because it's dafka then that when a yid reaches a taharat machshava, when the possibility, when the option, when the opportunity of having a purification of the mind is right then and there, which is what kapara brings. So obviously, right then and there, the other side's going to come at you. Oof, is he going to come at you? So the same thing happens with Purim. The same thing happens with Purim. It may be in the form of you get angry at someone's kid for being too loud during a Haman, or you're angry at a kid for not being loud enough during a Haman, or you don't like that, you think the Baal Korah is, it doesn't, there's a million things. But bifrat b'shat kriyat ha-Megillah, achroim b'chush, we sense, shkasher megia ha'adam le'imei ha-Purim. Purim's here, with all the prep. Misha nichnas, especially in the Ibri year, when they have 2 months, you're basically singing Misha nichnas adar for 6 weeks before you're actually reading the Megillah. So you have all this hachana, you have all this preparation, and Purim comes. Ubifrat b'shat kriyat ha-Megillah, kasher lo ad me'od la'asok ba'avoda zo lichyot et ha-Megillah. We are trying, like we just said right now, right after Shachris, our avoda is to live the Megillah. Meaning, what does Megillah mean?
Revealed.
The revelation, Megillah. We're trying to live the Megillah. We're trying to live the revelation of Megillat Esther,
which is Hester.
The hiddenness. We are trying to live Megillas Esther. We're trying to live the revelation of concealment. That's what Megillat Esther means, nachon? Revealing the concealed. And it becomes the hardest while we're reading Megillas Esther. Ula'ir et kol metziut chayav, and to shine, to illuminate the reality of our lives, va'orover alav be'ora Megillah, and everything we go through the light of the Megillah. V'yesh kama v'chama gormim lechach. There are a few reasons for this. V'neve'er b'sad dishmaya et sibat hakoshi hazeh ba'aruka. We'll have time, we'll explain this thoroughly. V'yine etzem ha'esek bekoshi hu kvar kechetzi tshuva. This is beautiful. He's saying, even dealing with addressing that it's hard is already half of the answer. Why? K'ma'amar ha'olam she'elat chacham chetzi tshuva. What does that mean? The question of the wise is already half an answer. You ever learn Rashi, and Rashi asks the question, before he even answers, you feel like you learned the whole sugya? Because he points out something you didn't notice. So the shaila of a chacham, when a wise person asks a good question, it's already half of an answer, meaning you're already opening up to a whole world of Torah you never knew before. So the fact that we're even speaking about this is already good. It's already a good thing. We haven't even gotten to any answers yet, but we're putting it on the table and we're addressing that which needs to be addressed. Wouldn't that be beautiful if we could illuminate everything that we go through in light of the Megillah? And we won't be over this concept that Chazal say, Hakoreh et ha-Megillah lemafreya. Rav Shlomo used to say like this, you know what lemafreya means? Lemafreya, Rav Shlomo said, means that you skip over chapters. Why? because whatever, you know that one, or this one's too painful. You can't. And you can't read it backwards. It has to be. Why? Because every detail that happens in the Megillah is our life, and every detail in our life is leading us to La Yehudim Hayta Ora V'Simcha V'Sason V'Ikar. And if you're not going to read every detail of your life, at the end you won't really have Ora Simcha V'Sason V'Ikar. Amen Ken Yiratzon. Hine b'chol dvar v'davar b'avodas Hashem yesh leitim la'adam hitorerut gdola kodem kiyum mitzvah. When it comes to many things regarding the avodat Hashem, man has tremendous awakening before doing the mitzvah. For instance, like what? Give some examples. What's an example of a mitzvah that there's a tremendous awakening and an excitement before you do the mitzvah? No one's excited about any mitzvahs. We're doing good, boys. That's one of the greatest ones. It's one of the greatest ones.
You prepare for it the whole day.
The achana for the achana for that moment of eating the matzah, it's basically all day long. What do you eat? Weirdest, best day to start a diet is a Erev Pesach, right? What's another one? Like, think about it, a mitzvah that we do, that there's a great awakening and it brings out so much excitement before it happens.
Lulav and Esrog.
Perfect. I mean, that you have less time, obviously, but yes, also.
5 days.
Huh? Building the sukkah, 100%.
5 days also.
What else? It doesn't even have to be length of days. It could just be a place in your heart.
So, going to the mikveh in Bar Ayin before Yom Kippur, that is just for me, it's like so high.
The excitement before it?
And actually being there, as opposed to actually taking a short night, it's like, the achana is unbelievable.
I did the smartest thing. I didn't think too much, and the first time I ever went in there was after a concert I had on Hanukkah years ago. A bass player that I was playing with lived in Bat Ayin, and I dropped him off after the concert. And right before I dropped him off, he said, "You know, the best thing right now would be to Toivel in the Mayan." Yeah, at night in December. And because I had a crazy gilui in there, I'm telling you. I went in, and you're like, I don't know if I'm dying right now, right? It could be that I'm dying right now, and I don't even know. I had a whole thing in there. You know, when I took David Sachs, remember David Sachs that was here recently? My friend from LA, David Sachs. You remember him, Larry?
Yeah.
I took him also to the Mayan. It wasn't December. It was just like, I don't know when it was. And he goes inside, and I just heard him like wail. You know, I said to him, "What happened?" He's like, "All I knew the second that I went in is that I have to come out. That's all." All I knew. That was all was going in my mind, right? All I knew, the excitement.
Like Jerry when we were
In Medjugorje.
No, he couldn't breathe.
He couldn't. Yeah, he was dying before he even went into the. Yeah, he was actually
dying. Pull him out.
What are other mitzvahs? Do we have a lot of excitement before we do it? It's like it's the elephant in the room, I guess. It's so funny. Bigger.
Coffee.
Marriage. Kiddushin. Nachon. Excitement. Someone came to see me yesterday. He's 75. He's getting married for the 4th time. And it's like, yeah, still wants to have kids. It's like crazy. Excitement. So you can call it whatever you want. It's a little bit out there, pretty out there. But there's this, basically he says, every time there's a big hisayrus to do something, so before the mitzvah, there's a tremendous hisayrus. Shavuos, Sfiras Omer is the excitement towards the mitzvah of Kabbalah Satorah of Shavuos, nachon? Ach b'sha'at, third line, ach b'sha'as kiyum hadavar b'foal, yesh la'adam koshi. Matzah is a great one, but while you prepare the matzah and everything, and you go and bake the matzah, and you have that day, and then Leil Seder, you're sitting at the Seder table, and that moment of all the hachana, and then it comes, and then what happens? Who knows? Anything can happen. There's a koshi. וכמו שרמזו צדיקים בדבריו של דוד המלך, and David HaMelech alluded to this, צמא נפשי לאלוקים לאל חי, לקל חי, מסי אבא ואירה פני אלוקים. My soul is thirsting for the living God. When will I come and see the face of God? Ubiru tzadikim, sheDavid HaMelech mevakesh, he's asking, shegam kasher avo ve'er'eh. Also when I'm coming, and I'm going to see, meaning I'll be in the present moment, dahainu b'sha'as kiyum ha-mitzvah b'foal, when I'm actually keeping the mitzvah literally b'foal, he's saying, yelo oto hargasha shel tzama nafshi le'elokim le'akel chai, shetiyeh lo kod kiyum ha-mitzvah. You understand? My soul is thirsting to come to you, and then when I come to you, may I be thirsting for it the same way that I was before it happened. Rav Shlomo said the worst thing about Chassan and Kala is when they stop looking for each other once they met each other. You hear how deep that is? When they stop longing to be with each other once they're with each other. People that long, I mean, there's another mitzvah that I'm like holding back right now, but last night I was basically with this, it was a beautiful chaver. You're a chaver. I was with your chaver in Cleveland last night. That chaver that was in, I did an evening for them in the Yekiv. And I went for it. I did. I went for it. When I say went for it, I'm going to say, like, guys, you're on a chizuk mission. You know, you could actually live a chizuk mission and just be here, right? And I said, this should be the last chizuk mission. They looked at me like, no, this should be the last chizuk mission. Then you hear, but I was looking at them with, like, I saw their eyes, I was like, wow. They still have the tzipiyah, they still have this looking forward to being here. Then the mitzvah of Yeshiva Arts happens, and like this is like what we talk about every single day here in Shirat David, and I taking Jeremy's coining term to keep on making aliyah. It's the same exact thing. So tzama nafshi le'elokim, my soul is thirsting to come to Eretz Yisrael. And then matai avo ve'era'eh, and when I'm here and I'm looking, and Hashem, I know this is what you're looking at. Eretz asher eina Hashem elokecha ba, I want to still thirst for it like I did before I was here. Like Natan Sharansky in jail all those years. And then he comes here. Like to keep that inyan, to keep that longing for it. He says this is what David HaMelech was davening for, that it should be like this. Bottom paragraph on the right column. Shehine. Kol zman she'adam osek beha'arot she'olchim lavo, as long as a person is dealing with like lights about like something that's going to come, hu metzayer tziyur mesuyam beda'ato. Oh, this is so true. This is so true. Before I know where I'm going, or before I'm there, I have an imagery of what it's going to look like. That happens, does it ever happen to you? Like, you have to go somewhere, you don't know what it looks like, but you have a whole image of what this thing is going to look like. Could be completely off, could be on, it doesn't matter. With marriage, there's, huh?
It doesn't.
Well, it doesn't matter before.
Right.
Like with marriage, it's amazing. It's amazing. I have a tziyur, right? But in that tziyur, no one told me, right, that there's this inyan of, I don't know, let's throw out like some very interesting details. Well, no one told me that there's...
No, do it, guys.
right.
I'm just gonna say it simply. Our anniversary was in Shabbos.
Right.
2-year anniversary.
Mazel tov.
Anything that I had a thought in mind that would be a struggle before is so not an issue.
Right.
And like things I never thought would be like
Mamash.
suddenly there. And
Mamash.
oh, okay. That's interesting.
This is it. Nachon?
By the way, we just celebrated our 20th yesterday, and it's the same thing.
It's unbelievable. Like Rav Bravender said, he said a great thing. The Rosh Yeshiva said like this. He said, when Rabbi Bravender moved here in 1965, he came to Eretz Yisrael. So he did a panel with Rabbi Riskin a few years ago in the Dan Panorama. They did a conversation together. It was great. It was moderated by Rabbi Jeffrey Sachs. And it was a very fun night for many of the alumni of the yeshiva and former Talmidim. A bunch of us went. And and they both, Rabbi Bravender came here in 65. What year did Rabbi Riskin come here? 82? 83? Mashkaza?
80, 81.
Yeah, you're dealing with 40 years of Eretz Yisrael and 55 years of Eretz Yisrael. So they were each asked, what didn't you know? Like, what do you wish that you would have known before you came here? So Rav Bravender said, when they spoke to us about Aliyah and Bnei Akiva and everything, they just never told us that there are non-Jews that are in Israel. I wish they would have told us that that's like an Indian we have to address. You have to have to understand, Rav Bravender is very, I don't know how to say this. He's not, what I mean to say is that he's not a Kahana activist at all. Right? If anything, it's more the other way. But what he was saying was like no one spoke to us about the picture. The picture was, Eretz Yisrael sheli yafa v'gam polach. Just like, listen, my Eretz Yisrael was watching Rehov Sumsum. You know what that was? Mm-hmm. Sesame Street, in Hebrew. And my mother's memories of the kibbutz that she did Hachshara, kibbutz Beirut Yitzchak, and my father's imagery of moving here at the age of 14 from Argentina, getting off the boat and moving to. So that was the whole thing. Then we're here, and it's like, what are they doing here? That wasn't so like lahavdil, Let's say lahavdil. It's like the same thing when it comes to a lot of things full of excitement. So Purim imagery is yeah, kids exist, they get hungry. Meshulachim are going to come knocking on your door every few minutes. There's all these mitzvahs hayom you have to be yotzei. There's people, who knows what's going to be? Who knows what's going to be? Again, bottom paragraph, שהנה כל זמן שהאדם עוסק בהערות שהולכים לבוא, הוא מצייר ציור מסוים בדעתו, איך יהיה אז הרגשתו. I don't just have an imagery, I have an expectation of how I'm going to feel marriage, right? How I'm going to feel, how it's going to be a father. I have an imagery of how it's going to feel. אולם כאשר האדם עוסק במצווה גופה, but then there's a mitzvah of kiddushin, right? Of actually doing it. והכל סביבו כל כך גשמי ומציאותי, and no one told me that like those words on the ksuba were actually like muzonaichi v'sipukaichi, all these things I have to actually, work on and I'm gashmius level to provide. קשה לאדם להתחבר להערות ולימודים שלמד קודם לכן. Wait a second, so what were my chassan classes? What was I learning, right? Why didn't anyone teach me this stuff? ולהאמין שעכשיו ממש הכל נעשה. And to believe that right now everything is actually being done. Because we learned for smicha, Hilchos Nida, in my case before I was married, so my chassan classes I learned, some Rav said, I'm going to give you chassan classes. I was close to him at the time, and we only learned Gana Shalom with my chassan classes. It was very interesting. It was very interesting. The Garden of Peace, Rav Arush's Garden of Peace. וכמו המשל שמביא הבן איש חי, על האב שרצה ללמד את בנו להנהיג ספינה, like the parable that the Ben Ish Chai brings of a father that wanted to teach his son how to להנהיג ספינה, how to ספינה, a boat, how to sail a boat. ועשה דמות ספינה קטנה מנייר, he made a paper boat, right? והראה לבנו איך להשיטה בתוך קערה מלאה מים. He showed him, this is how you sail, and he took the paper boat and he put it into a bowl of water, and he said, this is how you do it, right? וחשב שבכך ילמד הילד את אומנות הנהגת הספינה הגדולה במי הים האדירים. The father thought, yeah, now the kid will know how to then go out to the Mediterranean and go and sail. אך לאחר מכן, בהגיעם אל ים האמיתי, then they get to the ocean, עבדו עשתונות הילד, ולא ידע נפשו מרוב פחד ובהלה. The kid started to freak out. He's like, this is nothing like I was taught. כי בהיותו בביתו, when he was in his house, הוא היה עצמו חוץ לספינה. Why? This is so deep. Because when he was learning how to sail a boat, where was he? He wasn't in the boat. ואילו כאן נצטרך להשיט את הספינה כשהוא בתוכה. So deep from the Ben Ish Chai. But now he needs to sail this boat when he's in the boat. Different Indian. וכך הוא ממש בנידון דידן. That's what the ראשי תיבות mean. It's exactly in our situation too. שכל זמן שאין האדם עסוק במצווה גופה, I don't have the matzah, I don't have the wife, I'm not living with the wife, I'm not in Eretz Yisrael, mitzvahs יישוב הארץ, וכן הלאה. הוא יכול לצייר במוחו ציור מסוים. I could just paint a picture in my mind, ולחשוב מחשבות שונות, and have all these different thoughts.
We should avoid thinking?
מה זה?
We should avoid?
עוד לא, חכה. He's gonna...
מה התועלת של זה?
רק התחלנו. אך כשמגיע הדבר כפשוטו, and then when the tachlis, the pashtus of it comes, צריך לחבר את המחשבות לתוך המציאות הגשמית הפשוטה, שבה הוא נתון כרגע, Azai kashe adavar ad lameod, meaning taking orot and putting it into kelim, like you said here, that's the avoda of this world. That's what we're trying to do. שהרי הוא רואה באין גשמיס את כל הסובב, והכל נראה כל כך גשמי ומציאותי. Everything seems so materialistic, so just this world stuff. Like again, like really marriage is about waking up in the middle of the night if my wife needs, especially when they're pregnant, that pizza, or that pickle, or that Ben and Jerry, whatever it is, that's it? My machshava, my machshava was Avram and Sarah. Lech tech acharai b'midbar be'eretz lo zru'ah. Follow me into the desert. We won't have anything. But as long as we got each other, right? It'll all be good. Ma pitom. Right? Mazel tov. Ve'im kach hu bechol inyan ve'inyan. This is the way it is in all other matters. Harei shel achas kama v'chama ba'avodas yemei Purim. Now listen, this is the inyan. And this is like with utmost seriousness. He said in the beginning of this mimer that Purim is the day of the shoresh, of the removal of concealment. Our lives are filled with hastaras. They're filled with concealment. And this happens on Purim, it's the shoresh of the removal of concealment. So if I'd ask you, what does that look like? What will happen? What will it feel like? What would the world look like when the mechitza is removed and there's no more concealment? Start painting the picture. Start painting the picture. Start drawing that picture. Come on, Piasetz Nechasidim. Start visualizing. Start illustrating what that looks like. Nachon? And Rav Kluger is saying, and it's going to hit you in your face. Just like, and you know, one of Rav Kluger's biggest talmidim, and for us it's been the chibur, is Rav Judah Mishal, Eli's brother. Judah said that he realized what it meant to be a talmid of Rav Kluger when one Friday night, at the table was complete chaos. Chandelier was shaking. If there was a chandelier, if you know what I mean, there was nothing good, nothing happening. It was all balagan. And he looked around and he said, Klum chaser bebeit hamelech. There's nothing lacking in the house of the king. And he basically said, this is exactly how beautiful is this right now. Because how many Shabbos tables are filled with people at singles events in Rechavia and Baka that wish they had a Shabbos table. So your imagery and expectation of what it should look like didn't meet exactly the tziyur, but when you're able to l'shachrer and say, this is exactly the perfect reality for me to feel like ve'etar ve'etkadesh b'kedusha shel mala, ta nitzachta. You won. You mamish won. That's a win. That's the biggest win. That's a removal of hastara. That's a removal of concealment. Big time. That's a big removal of concealment.
I just had this a few days ago. I was talking to someone who's about 30, 31, never married, really wants to get married. And I said, you know, I might be in the doghouse tonight. I mentioned that to him. You know, it's a long day, whatever. He said, at least you have a doghouse.
Chazak. So chazak. So bottom left paragraph. ואם כך הוא בכל עניין ועניין הרי שעל אחת כמה וכמה ועודות מהפורים, כאשר קודם פורים האדם מתכונן ומתבונן ביישוב הדת ושלוות הנפש. Look at us on a Monday morning and nearly 10 in the morning. We're all sitting here and gently and patiently ushering in the avodah of the light of Purim. How great, how sweet it is, right? אך בהגיע ימי הפורים, then Purim comes, האדם טרוד בכל ההכנות למצוות היום, משלוח מנות, משתה ושמחה, ובפרט בזמן קריאת המגילה, שצריך חיזוק גדול לכוון לשמוע מפי הבעל קורא את כל התיבות, כמו שהזהירו הפוסקים, like we've been learning after davening, where there's an avodah, you have to make an attempt, you have to have extra effort to make sure you hear every word that the בעל קורא is saying, it's avodah. ובפרט שהאדם אחרי יום שלם של תייניס, you're also starving. Everyone forgets that, right? The beginning of Purim is like, you're kind of growling. It's like you're kind of messed. You probably have a headache and you know, you're not doing that geschmack. It's not like, I come in, it's not so pashut. ואמרו חז"ל, קודם שיאכל אדם וישתה, יש לו שתי לבבות, ואין לו כלל יישוב הדעת. Before a person eats or drinks, he has no יישוב הדעת at all. וכל רגע נכנס אדם נוסף ומבקש לזכותו במצוות מתנות לאביונים, and every 2 seconds someone else is here and saying, I'm here to give you the schus of the mitzvah of matanos לאביונים. And before Purim, you have all the Torahs about matanot לאביונים in your head, what a beautiful day it is. Mashiach, I'm going to feel so holy giving to matanot לאביונים. That lasts after maybe 3 avyonim. Could come by. That here is not, it doesn't last that long unless you're really, really gone and they come at the right time. Right? Then it lasts that long. Ubifrat kasher tafli talya ba. You know what that means? I mean, your children are dependent on you. Then bakshim et ezrato. My costume's not matching, and your kid is freaking out. And you're thinking, who cares? And you see the kid is in such distress because their costume isn't adding up. And in your mind, you're like, you're bothering me. You're bothering my Kedusha of Purim flow. Let's admit it. What are you telling me right now? You're interrupting my flow of Kedusha of Purim. You think anyone cares about your costume? You're not saying that. But in your mind, it's kind of there. And your wife, I don't know about the food. If the people can have enough food. And you're saying, do you think anyone even thinks about the food at the Purim Suda? Do you think anyone's going to remember? I'm a shalach manas. I don't know if it's kovadik or not. I don't know if we gave that person that. And in your mind, you shachtzan, you're saying, do you think anyone even thinks? Right? But b'foyal, there's someone there that needs to be heard at a moment where you think you're in Kedusha Shel Mala. What's holier? To push your adl forcefully, to coerce your adloyada state onto people that aren't there with you? What's holier? These things come up, Rav Kluger says. Like we said. And then Megillah reading, you can't stand the guy that does that, everyone's done with, and then there's that one guy that waits till everyone's done to go that last one, right? And you want to take that guy out, right? These things, these dvarim shebechol yom. וממילא לפעמים אין האדם מיושב על מקומו. And it ends up being that Purim is not a Yeshiva Das experience. And then when this happens, ממילא כל כך קשה לו להתחבר למעשה המגילה. ולהארת ימי הפורים. And you're like, wait a second. This whole hachana I had was to live the story, to hear every word, to see my life and my mitzias and my nefesh elokis through the light of the story of the Megillah. And all these things are happening. You're bichlal. It's bichlal, not part of the parsha. It's already Pesach, and you're still frowning over what happened to you on Purim. Ach ikar ha'avodah bazeh hu להתחבר למציאות האמיתית כפי שהיא. This is so important, brothers. Rav Kluger is saying the holiest thing you can do is to litchaber to the reality that you see right now in front of your eyes. Not your image or your expectation. Not that.
Isn't this the greatest concept of emunah in general?
Legamra.
This is the best thing because it happened. It's happening. So
It's happening, mashma, shezem, amiti.
Right?
להסתכל ולהתבונן בדיוק על האמת לאמיתה. If Purim is a day of removing concealment, what's removing of concealment? Living with emet la'amita. What's more emet la'amita than what's happening right in front of you? What's more truth? What's more emes than what's happening right in front of you? דהיינו שלמרות שנראה לו המציאות כפי שהיא נראית כאן למטה, באופן גשמי של העלמה וההסתרה, even though it seems, according to him, the reality that he sees down here is happening, and it's still in a concealed manner, אך יתבונן האדם על המציאות הפנימית והאמיתית של הבריאה. Person should go deeper into looking at the real and inner reality of creation, שאכן כעת נעשה כל מה שלמד. That everything you learned as preparing yourself for Purim and the story of the Megillah is actually happening when your wife is kvetching about the menu. That is the deepest thing in the world. Not that, again, it's not, Stam gave that example. It could be anything. Anything that's not in your picture. that you painted for yourself.
Where do you find it's maybe that's not the way I want
No,
to put it,
I hear your question. I asked Chaim Kramer that one year before Pesach.
that's
I
what
said,
thinking.
I asked him one year.
Repeat the question? Meaning like the cleaning for Pesach, if it mamish, yes, you have to clean, but it gets to a point where like it takes over everything in the home. And you're not living. I understand, but
No,
this is the world we're living today.
I'm speaking more,
potentially.
I asked him about something else. I asked him about Leil Seder. I said, Chaim, and anything that you learn about the oros of Leil Seder and how many different oros are coming down and all the halachas we have of Leil Seder. He says, a Ben Chorin has to come to the Seder with the notion of, I'm giving this my best shot. But if I come to the Seder saying, I'm nailing it, then the other side's going to go, oh yeah? Let's take you back to Egypt. Come. You're not ready to come out. Mamash. I told you, one of the greatest lines the therapist told me was a healthy person is a person that goes to sleep every night saying, today I gave it a good shot. Or at least recognizing and saying, you know what? I didn't really give it a good shot today, but at least saying that. That's mitzias. That's reality. In your face. That's what it's really all about. Either saying I gave it a good shot, that's hopefully a nice outcome of the day. Or saying, so let's go to Purim. How does a person come to Purim before Purim? What are we going to say? I'm going to give it my best shot, right? But my best shot doesn't mean I'm going to live the picture that I imagined, because you lost Purim at that moment.
Are we not supposed to have
You lost.
expectations?
That's exactly what I was gonna say, no expectations.
I mean, this is like the most real thing that I've learned in a long time. This is definitely getting everybody in the room in such a way that's like, wow, right? We have all these expectations. We learn about all these orot, all these special things that are coming down on a holiday and all these things. But then, when push comes to shove, there's reality.
Says the man who just celebrated 1 year of Aliyah.
So,
You answer your own question. Should you have expectations? Yeah. Yeah.
I find in general that expectation is a really bad thing, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what.
It's a matter of defining an expectation. If I have an expectation of saying I'm going to give it my best shot, that's the greatest expectation you have. If I have an expectation of saying I'm going to live as if I could see myself with Mordechai Yehudi going, I feel bad for your children. I do. I feel bad for your wife. So what is the expectation? The expectation is I'm going to give this my greatest shot.
The reason why this Chag of Purim is the time for this, this is like what we talk about always.
Right,
This
right.
is constant acceptance and being in the moment and consciousness. But the Dafka now Purim, so like almost transform the whole year, is why.
Because of the first because of the first paragraph that he said. Remember the first paragraph that he said was because Purim is the shoresh of the removal of concealment. Now in our minds, removal of concealment means what?
expectations of.
Being up there in the clouds.
So you can have the expectations, but change what they are.
Of course.
Or when the
Of course.
expectations don't pan out
They have
like
to,
you think.
exactly. That's why it's Purim. Because it's the shoresh of the removal of hastara. So because I hear those words, I'm like, oh boy, so what's it going to be? I'm going to move to Eretz Yisrael. I'm going to find a job that pays me everything and more immediately. There won't be any Yishmaelim or people that don't believe in the oneness of God and that learn Zohar all day long. And this will be my experience in Eretz Yisrael. Hatzlacha Rabbah. That's why,
And then you can't get gas because you have no idea what to do.
Yes, you hear? You understand? Yeah. That's why he's. That's
the
why.
Dafka, so it's the Dafka in the dregs, in the mundane, in the most simple of things, specifically in this Chag.
Right.
Because the concealment's been removed.
Because it's a
When
day of the
concealment
removal of
gets removed,
concealment.
I'm able to see that really Hashem is there in the fetching on the menu.
If that's where you're putting your kavanah into that place, otherwise you're going to be doomed.
Meaning the concealment, it's
No,
being
Yossi, yeah,
removed
Yossi,
after
go to your
looking at
Purims. Like, go to your highest Purims, right? Anyone, check, go to your highest Purims if you can remember them. If you can remember any of your highest Purims. If, usually, like, I've worked so hard on showing up at my makom and saying whatever it is this year, it just is. If I begin to compare the highs of last year, I'm already michutz lamachane of my own Purim. I'm out. You know, we have this friend that came for Shabbos a few weeks ago from London, right? I spoke to him before Shabbos. He says, I can't wait. I got to come back again for Shabbos soon. Now I'm thinking, for his sake, that he has no zecher of his first Shabbos here. Why? Because if his experience in this coming Shabbos, that he comes back, it could be the highest Shabbos in the world, but if it's not what that was in that picture,
Or what he thought that.
or what he thought that was, Gamarno, it won't work. It won't work. But that's what Rav Kluger is saying. This is looking at the eye of the beast of illusion, looking at it like right in it, and saying, if you can look right through it, you removed every mechitza. You removed every concealment that there is. And that's what Purim's all about. It's the deepest. Shachar, you're right. This is hitting in the kishkas. Yeshua, you wanted to say something? You want to say something? It's okay? Okay, we'll go weiter. We're in the middle of this paragraph, the second paragraph again. I'm going to read from the top again. אך עיקר העבודה בזה הוא להתחבר למציאות האמיתית כפי שהיא, להסתכל ולהתבונן על האמת לאמיתה. דהיינו שלמרות שהיא נראית כאן למטה, באופן גשמי של העלמה והסתרה, אך יתבונן האדם על המציאות הבריאה. Person should look again into the real reality of creation. שאכן כעת נעשה כל מה שלמד. Yeah, everything you learned, all the hachanas you had, they're actually happening right in front of you. They are. They're happening right in front of you. ומתעוררים כל אותם הערות ומאיר בפשיטות יסוד אבא. That's already a Kabbalistic terminology. I don't want to go into it. Weiter. ובפרט ביום טוב פורים. And this is dafka and Purim, going back to your question. Why? she'az ikar ha'avoda, what's the ikar avoda of Purim? Le'ashlich et ha'da'at. Ad de lo yada. Chucking away the what? The da'at here means expectations. Le'alot el ha'makom she'lema'ala min ha'da'at. Ad de lo yada. Can you imagine waking up in a world without any expectation of what the day is going to be like?
It'll be a great day.
Huh?
It'll be a great day.
That's Purim. Ad de lo yada means until I throw away any expectation and I'm one with what is right now. I'm one with what is right now, with everything I have and everything I don't have in front of me right now. That's ad de lo yada.
It's incredible.
ודבר זה נעשה במשך כל יום הפורים, and this happens all day Purim. ולא רק בשעת שתיית היין. Not only when I'm guzzling down the wine. במשך כל יום הפורים, מסתכל על היהודי על הבריאה, בהסתכלות פנימית. Throughout the whole day of Purim, a person is looking at creation with an inner contemplation, with different eyes. That's why in Breslovers are very makpid. That before the Suda happens, you do Hisbodedus. Like it's one of the most important days that every day is, but don't wait till you're trash to do Hisbodedus. It's not the avoda then. It's to look at the world with the histaklut pnimit that he's talking about. Mitzad ha-metziut ha-amitit. Uche'ein ma shekasav b'yosher divrei emes. I want you to remember that